Hey, welcome back to A Faster Me. This is CBR number 6. This is the season finale for the season series. And this is the Cat 4-5 race. It's my second race of the day. The Cat 4 race was at 7:30 in the morning. And then this race is like 9:20 or so. So there's basically just one race in between. Jump off the bike for the Cat 4 race or whatever, get something to drink and jump back in to the Cat 4-5. It's basically the same field. Obviously, there's some Cat 5s in this race, but for the most part, it's the same riders in the Cat 4 race. The only difference is that it's a 30-minute race opposed to a 40-minute race. So, ironically, too, the Cat 4-5 race was, half mile per hour faster than the Cat 4 race. And it's just the difference of tactics and how the race played out from the Cat 4 race to the Cat 5 race. So here I'm sitting behind Pascal, and I'm actually getting sprayed with sealant. Probably in his warm-up or something. He got a puncture somewhere. And I didn't know for sure it was him at this point, but there's some sealant spraying around, getting on my glasses and my face. And then, after we come through the start-finish line, I see it under his bike. So, I'm going to let him know that, hey, you got a puncture, you're spraying sealant everywhere. And, he can't really do anything about it because he doesn't have, any wheels in the pit. So it's basically it either seals or his race is done. So, and Pascal won the Cat 4 race earlier today. Pretty close. There's a breakaway off the, for the majority of the race, and I think they just caught and passed the breakaway like basically just on the last lap. So here I'm telling him there's sealant leaking, and he just says basically he's praying for it to seal because other than that his race would be over. And maybe like half a lap later or even down this straightaway, it kind of stopped spraying. So I think it finally, sealed, and it must have been a small hole because I think he still had enough air to where, it didn't affect bike handling or anything like that. So like I said, this race, we end up being a little bit faster than the first race. And I think the difference is, like I said, the breakaways were off the front in the first race. So the peloton was out, obviously going slow enough to allow the brake to stay away, at least for a majority of the race. And here I think our speed was just a little bit higher, probably a little bit due to the shorter race as well. But it was a little bit higher and just a little bit more consistent of a speed. And we got, like I said, we got all of the same players in this race as we did before.
Yeah, I told him it's trying to seal.
I don't know if you guys saw the P123 video I put out, but that's one of the things about moving up to a better category, or I shouldn't say better, just a higher category, is sometimes you get cash. Sometimes there's cash premiums, and when you race Cat 4, Cat 5, usually you're getting socks, which we appreciate. We appreciate all the sponsors, but you get a pair of socks. You might get a beer if you're old enough to drink beer. Some hydration packs, things like that. But it's always good to get a little cash or some vouchers to, a bike shop or whatever, whoever the sponsor is, like InCycle or something. It's always good to get some of those things or bike equipment. I mean, honestly, any preem is good, but yeah. And, it's kind of funny because, for the most part, I hope to be racing Masters next year. So, obviously move up to Cat 3. And I probably won't do any like open Cat 3 races or anything. At least not too many. I'd love to see the 30 plus 3-4 come back. That was there a couple years ago. I think Majestic is the only one that does it now. But I'd love to see that field come back, or just move up to Racing Masters. But honestly, I know a lot of people are like, can't wait to get out of like Cat 4s. And, they think it's dangerous. And for some reason, people think Cat 3 is so much safer, which in my opinion is not. Maybe a little bit safer, but it's also faster and they crash as well. So, it's just part of the sport. And we really just got to, you know, uh, be at peace with that. You want to be as safe as possible, but obviously that's part of the attraction to any type of racing or vehicle racing is the potential of a crash. But for me, I honestly I enjoy racing Cat 4. Maybe not Cat 5 as much, but I enjoy racing Cat 4, and I don't mind racing against Cat 5s in the race. Um, for me, it's a really good, like, I don't know, vibe as far as like people that race Cat 4, Cat 5. They're really excited usually to race. They're excited because they're newer to the sport. And I think just sometimes as you move up, it just becomes such a chore because a lot of people switch from being excited to race to what are my results. And obviously, as you move up, the competition stiffens. Those results are even harder to come by. So, just my opinion, I think sometimes people get a little burnt out as they move up. They start taking the sport. I don't like to use the word too serious because I think the sport should be taken serious, and people have the right to have whatever focus they want when they're racing. If they want to race just to win, if they want to be out here to just compete, whatever it is. But I just think a lot of the Cat 4s, it's a pretty good space. There's super strong riders out there, and they're still new enough to have that excitement just to be racing, like just to be out there competing, having a platform to race and trying to learn some things. We'll see how it goes next year. For the most part, I just hope I'm healthy. I haven't been healthy the last 2 years. Mainly this year, I haven't been healthy. Last year, I just had a crash at the beginning of the year, had a concussion that put me out for a month and kind of started me over, so I had to build my fitness back up. This year, I've been actually unhealthy. And it's a little depressing, but at the same time, it doesn't matter to me because I'm just out here competing. And like I said, it doesn't matter what I race, in my opinion. I'm still just competing. So, and it's not like I'm out here winning every race or anything. So it's not like it's too easy for me. But for the most part, I'm just looking for good health. I'm getting older, getting a little weaker, stuff like that. So for me, it's just a challenge, a personal challenge. But I'd like to move that challenge up to the Masters category next year. And honestly, I think I'm going to miss the Cat 4 races a little bit. Not to mention, when you're doing multiple races, sometimes you like this. I can't say you, but I like this race sometimes where I know it's just a 30-minute race. Sometimes it's good to just jump in a little sprint race, get it over with, instead of just having 40, 50-minute races all the time. It makes it harder if you want to do, say, 3 races. I know everybody doesn't have that opportunity to do 2 or 3 races. Sometimes it's just one race in their category. But when you're at this stage, I think it's good sometimes just to jump into a 30-minute race and not have it be too long and too exhausting. So here I just moved to the outside, try to follow Greg up a little bit. I don't know, I think I raced pretty well for the most part in both races. Did a good job of like saving energy, stuff like that, but I've just been really struggling at the end lately. Of course I know what to do and all that, but I really haven't had the fitness to do it lately. I'm just always out of position going into the last 2 laps. And then of course, you got to use so much energy to get back to where you're supposed to be. So there's my teammate Alexander. He just doesn't have a kit. You're going on the breakaway there. This is Alexander's like 2nd year racing. He's only been riding bikes for about a year, and I mean riding a bike totally for a year. We met him last year. He joined the team, after like 2-3 months of riding, and he entered his first race at Barry Wolf in the Cat 5 last year. did pretty good. Came in like 14th, 15th place, if I remember correctly, for his very first race. And he was on a 40-year-old bike. Had shifters on the down tube. You know, it was too big for him. It was like his grandfather's bike that was just in the garage. He just picked it up one day and started riding it. And a couple months later, you know, he did his first race. He's actually really strong as a climber, especially for just 1 year of riding. So, you know, it's a good move for him to get out here. This is only his second race of the year, if I'm not mistaken, maybe third race of the year. But yeah, it's a good job. Just, you know, he's not a sprinter or anything. He doesn't like the flats that much. So it's good for him taking a chance. There he is right here that I'm just passing in the brown jersey. It's good for him to just take a chance and, you know, go for a breakaway. Or try a little attack, you know. And it was a preem lap, if I'm not mistaken. So I believe my man right here from Wolves in the black kit, I want to say he's battling for the sprint jersey, the green jersey. I didn't find that out until like after the race, but I think one of their guys, I can't remember if it's him or not, but one of their guys was fighting for the sprint jersey. So he's going to go off the front a little bit too, trying to get those bar points or sprint points, whichever category it is. As you can see, there's like 2 riders off the front now. I think that's Montgomery. Montgomery went with Alexander once he went, and Alexander faded. Montgomery kept the pace going, and I think he's going to just kind of pull for the next lap. Well, he's going backwards right now, so I don't think he made it a lap. But yeah, he did try to stay off the front a little bit after Alexander dropped back. So it's pretty strung out here, even though we're not really going that fast. I got Will to my right there, kind of trying to battle me for this wheel a little bit. And it's not a big deal, but I don't know, I just didn't want to give it up at this moment. So we played a little tug of war just for a second. You know, and I just accelerated after the turn, got like a little bit of bike position on him and just slotted back in, and then Will slotted in behind me. Yeah, so like I said, the pace wasn't really that hot in this race, but it was fairly consistent. The first race to me felt a little hard only because the first 10 minutes was like super hard. No, I wouldn't say super hard, but it was really hard. And then it slowed down like to 22 miles per hour, like through the middle of the race. And then the last like lap and a half, 2 laps was really hot. And this one just was a little bit, it was way more consistent. It just held like a decent speed the entire time, and I want to say we averaged 26.4 or something like that. Yeah, shout out to Big Orange too. Big Orange has been strong these last couple weekends. Both races today and both races last week at Barry Wolf. Almost had his wheel chopped a little bit there. So here's the same thing. I'm kind of losing my wheel a little bit. I've been on this Wolves wheel for, you know, a lap and a half or whatever. So I just accelerate to get back to that wheel again instead of fading back. You know, that's kind of one of the biggest things people have been asking me lately is position, like fighting for a wheel or just falling back into, you know, into the slipstream again after you've done an effort, or if you're riding off to the side and you kind of can't get in. And, you know, I always stress bike position, really just a little acceleration, getting your front wheel and handlebars and all that in front of the other rider, and then usually you can kind of overtake that position. Obviously, you want to do it smooth, no big lateral movements, yeah, and just claim your wheel. You don't have to get mad or yell or anything like that. I think often just people try to get too aggressive instead of just using bike position. Again, we got a large presence from the Velosport riders. I think they've been doing well too these last couple weeks. They've been, running near the front a lot, and they got 4 or 5 guys that's for the most part been trying to race as a team, trying to stick together a lot throughout the peloton. And yeah, they've been giving it a shot and just competing basically. So you're basically at the halfway point, just past the halfway point now. It's one of the things, like I said, that's one of the things I like about these short races is, they're quick. They go by quick, and it takes a lot of effort. You're still putting down power and making it fast or whatnot. But yeah, they're really over quick, and like I said, sometimes it's just a little bit refreshing just to get out there and be done with. Opposed to just always having a 40-plus minute race. You can see the pace is pretty hot right now. Accelerated pretty good. The group's really stretched out, and it looks like it's a little break up there in the middle. If I'm not mistaken, there's like 4 or 5 guys that go off the front for a little while. And unfortunately, it's like a dangerous break because like 3 of the guys out there are pretty good at sustaining, speed and power. So yeah, I just thought like it was looking dangerous when they were trying to form that break up there. So here the peloton just opens and I pull up to the back of Jack's wheel. Like I said, anytime it gets slow, someone's going to attack. It went down to 20 miles per hour, and then there you see it, attack immediately, which is the perfect timing, especially after the group just put in a pretty hard acceleration. People kind of want to slow down. They want to rest their legs a little bit, and that's kind of the perfect time to launch a counterattack. So yeah, we're probably about 7 laps out. Yeah, maybe like 7 laps to go here. And again, this is just the mental clock you either have in your head or you want to look down, just, take a glance at your computer. Is one of the things, ride time is something I keep on my display just so I know, especially if I'm in a 30-minute, 40-minute race. I definitely try to look for the halfway point, and then I try to look to where before the lap counter goes up, I want to know when there's, roughly 5 laps to go. And that's just a point that I try to mark and make sure I'm in a good position from that point on and not get caught out going backwards. It doesn't always work, obviously, because everyone's trying to do the same thing at that point. And you can see here, like I said, with a little more than 6 laps to go, 6, 7 laps to go, you can see the pace got pretty hot. When we came through last lap, we're 20 miles per hour. Now we were 30 to 28, 28 to 30 miles per hour. That was a pretty big movement there. Again, I'm not a fan of big lateral movement. You'll see a little bit too where some lateral movement almost takes me down. Got my front wheel clipped later in the race. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of like big lateral movement. It should be kind of gradual. Or if you're going to move left or right, it really shouldn't be more than one spot. It has to be wide open for you to really make a lateral movement. And even then, it's still kind of risky. Because for the most part, you should not be looking back before you get over. You see, I just took a glance right there, and that's like his biggest thing you should do is like a flash glance, and that's not even necessary, to be honest with you. If there's no one in your peripheral vision, you should just gradually move over, and if someone's half wheeling you or cross wheeling you, that's kind of their responsibility to protect their front wheel. But like I said, it should be really gradual, no big movements laterally. So that's D from Major Motion right there next to me. You see him and Lance and the rest of his crew. They're trying to line up a little bit for these last few laps.
Yeah, that break is dangerous. You got 3 breakaway riders in it.
Again, these last couple of weeks, we've had some really, I shouldn't say really safe, it's just what it is. But we've had some fairly safe races in these lower categories. It's late in the season. Everyone should be pretty accustomed to racing now. Even if it's your first season racing, everyone should be pretty accustomed to it now. And I think it shows that, we've had less crashes these last few weeks and few races. So I didn't see the lap counter, but I'm pretty sure we're down to about 5 laps to go. And as you can see, people's body language gets a little more urgent. Still a lot of time in the race, but you can just see people get a little more anxious, a little more urgent. I need some more urgency in myself right now. I'm so far back. And my heart rate monitor, if you see that, says 93 beats. That's completely wrong. Basically, it's a conflict because I have my chest strap on and I have my watch on. And, sometimes when it's low like this, there'll be a conflict with my watch and my chest strap. Only other time my heart rate would be low like that while I'm racing is if I'm in AFib, and I wasn't this weekend. I was good. One of the things that a lot of the promoters do, which we only have a couple promoters in Southern California, but one thing the promoters do is they always set a preem lap on 3 to go. Basically, there's a preem, so there'll be 3 to go, then it's 1 lap, and then it's the bell lap. You know what I mean? So it just keeps it spicy for basically 3 laps. I know I'm too far back here, so I shoot up. I was gonna shoot up the inside here, but I didn't want to dive bomb Jack, so I tell him to go ahead. He gives me room anyway, but I was just late and definitely don't want to dive bomb your teammate or take your teammate out. So I did, what I intended to do was make up a bunch of spots here, but, again, it's going to be hard to hold these spots during these last few laps. And like I said, you can just tell that everybody's body language is a little different. All of the usual suspects that are usually at the front of a race, you can see they're all trying to gear up and get in position. Don't want to be too far back, so everyone starts to move upstream a little bit. You see Ben over there off the right go to the front. Again, you got big orange guy going backwards here, struggling a little bit. And again, late in the race like this, you definitely don't want to draft someone that's going backwards. You just got to kind of get around them as fast as you can, hold your position or keep your position, or to try to move forward, make up a position. And depending on what your strategy is, you also don't want to be too far up front. You don't want to be first wheel at this point when there's still, 2 more laps to go or whatever, maybe 3 laps to go now. Yeah, I couldn't tell if it said 2 laps to go or 3 laps to go. Once again, I'm trying to make up some spots, so I kind of shoot up the inside here. Definitely make up a couple spots here. I'm at least next to Lance now, when before I was 2 rows back from Lance. So I wouldn't mind moving up the left there, but with this corner being a high-speed corner, I don't want to move up late now and be stuck on the inside. So I just kind of sit here near the double yellow, make my turn in from there. Again, you got to kind of be conscious of your ability. So yeah, by myself, can I make that turn? If I shot up the inside, of course you can, but you don't want to be in a situation where, you know, your margin of error is small and then someone like cuts a tighter apex or something and it's not their fault, it's yours because you're late coming in there. So for me, I'd rather just back off. If I feel like it's going to even be close, I'd rather back off. You see it there, the Wolves guy almost runs into the curb because he had to go so tight into the gutter. Yeah, it's not like he was in danger of crashing necessarily, but that's just something for me, like that part, I'd probably just back off. But maybe that's why I'm coming in the places I'm coming into, and not taking enough chances late in the race to get into a hold position.
Go ahead, take it.
Same here, you know, I can see the Lagrange rider was going to try to move up for that spot. I was eating a little bit of wind, so I'm going to go ahead and say take that, and he moves up. I get to slot over in the wind. Now, I could have fought him for that spot, but why would I do that when I'm exposed to the wind? I got to put in a little more energy. I'd rather let him take the spot and me slot in behind him, opposed to me just using energy at that point. So yeah, we're down to the last two laps here. You can tell it's kind of the quiet before the storm here. Like, again, like I said, you can see body language is different. See everyone's a little lower. Everyone has a little bit of more urgency to them. It's just kind of winding up now. And again, this is just, you got to get forward as much as you can. There, it looks like my heart rate finally connected back to my chest strap again, so you see it's running up. So here's the thing, like, you know, I'm behind some of the juniors right now, which is fine. You know, they're up there competing to earn their spot, but just something to be conscious of when it gets down to these last couple laps and the speeds get really high. You know, depending on who it is in front of you, some of the juniors just lack a little bit of that high-end power compared to some of the older guys, and being a little bit lighter weight, sometimes it's hard to push wind. So just be conscious. It's not really a junior thing or a non-junior thing. It's more be conscious of who you're following at that time, just to make sure gaps don't open. So here, definitely we're going into, you know, this is the last lap. Now, if you see where I'm at, I think Greg almost kills me here. He goes across and actually hits my wheel right here, right there. Actually hit my wheel, my front wheel, and I was able to just come off of it. It barely just touched tire to tire, actually. But, you know, it's the last lap, and Greg saw an opportunity to shoot in, and you can see him shoot up the inside there. So he saw an opportunity to come across, and you know, it's just the position I was in. I was basically in his blind spot, so he moved over thinking no one's there, and luckily, you know, neither one of us went down or anything. And as you can see, I'm just way too far back. There's a lot of people here. It's pretty thick. We definitely needed the speed higher. Even though it's fairly high, we definitely needed the speed a little higher than it was. Yeah. And I'm like dead tired at this point too. Once again, I don't have much left in the tank coming out of this corner. Try to launch a sprint, and I don't know what's been going on lately. I just have no sprint lately. It's been hard to even hit 1,000 watts for me lately, and I've just been burning out so quick. Just a little low on fitness right now, probably a little fatigue also. But yeah, definitely had no fitness. Ended up ironically in the exact same position that I did in my earlier race, so 17th position in both races, even though they played out a little bit different. And I think Pascal won this one as well, so I think he doubled on the weekend. Yeah, so great job to Pascal. Won in 2 different ways too. So anyway, we got a little break from racing. I think the next video I'm going to put out is some Tulsa Tough videos. Hopefully one from Marlena Bemis and the other one from Camila Arenas. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.